So, hello everyone. My name is Anna. I'm a student. I'm currently studying my master's degree in environmental leadership and engineering at Tsinghua University, China. And I am also interning on carbon accounting at Engie in Paris, France. And today I have with me Mary that will share with us a personal and a professional experience she had and how she overcame it and how she developed herself and evolved herself from it. So Mary, hello, it's a pleasure to see you, pleasure to have you here with us. And first, could you tell us a little bit more about yourself, your work, your role and your passions?
Hi Anna, and hi everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here. Yeah, sure. So at the moment I'm a VP for talent and leadership development in the banking sector. But I don't have a traditional banking background. I've been around the block in various different industries, from consulting to professional services to automotive. And now in the financial services sector. I am based in London. I've lived here for coming up to 8 years now, and coming up to 11 years in the UK overall, where I emigrated to from Poland. And I've spent pretty much my whole professional life in the people business, from training to talent identification and development, leadership development, coaching, mentoring, you name it. I've had some really fantastic opportunities to work on very big projects and L&D transformations overall for very interesting companies and clients. And here we are.
Great. So thank you very much once again for being here with us. And I know that you have a very interesting professional and personal story to share with us. So can you share it with us?
Yeah, gosh, I hope it's interesting to anyone listening to us. At the age of 22, I packed my bags when I was still at uni, and I emigrated to the UK without any skills, without a CV, without even knowing how to. Yeah, I didn't even know how to write a good CV at the time, really. But there was a reason for it, and I ended up here in the UK. And I had to really quickly find my feet. I was still a student, so still doing my master's degree in applied linguistics. And I found my first job, and I didn't really know what job I got until I got there on day one, and they explained it to me. And I then realized what I'm going to be doing. And the rest is really history. I mean, I've found my feet. I worked in my first company for 2.5 years, but very, very quickly, I had an entry-level, very basic job, but very, very quickly I learned that I love helping people
That's nice.
do their jobs. That's simple as that. Because going from being a student without any work experience to suddenly joining the workforce, I very quickly realized, well, I'm going to be working 3/4 of my day every day for the rest of my adult life. I want to have fun with it, and I want to help others feel like they want to be at work every day and have fun with it as well. And that's kind of been my guiding principle, I think, throughout my career. Yeah, then moved on to other companies for various reasons, to continue my journey of self-development, exploration of, different industries and different aspects of the people development world in general. And it's been a fantastic ride and a very rewarding journey with a lot of hiccups along the way, a lot of struggles, a lot of self-doubt, first and foremost. I think being an expat, your imposter syndrome is very strong every day. I
feel you.
I certainly, yeah, you do. There we go. I still feel that to some extent today, but it has gotten better over the years, definitely. But you do feel like you need to prove yourself more than everyone else around you. So that's caused a lot of, you know, interesting situations in my professional journey as well, but all very humbling, very rewarding, very satisfying, mostly because I met the most incredible people along that journey, you being one of them.
Oh my God, thank you. So let me ask you, the first question I would like to ask you is, so from one expat to the other, to another expat, were there any, you talked about hiccups, were there any cultural hiccups, some challenges you might had to face because you were an expat, some cultural differences or something like that?
This is such a great question and very fit for 2020, not just 2020, but for this day and age where, you know, we live in a global environment and we all think globally. Yes, I had a lot of those hiccups along the way, those cultural miscommunications. And that really, in a way, has become a really big aspect of where my interests lie, how to help people communicate across cultures. So I'll give you a very simple story, something that's happened a couple of years ago.
Okay.
At the time, my manager at the time very kindly agreed to have a coffee with one of my mentees. I work quite a lot with students and young people at the beginning of their professional journey to help them enter the workforce. So he very kindly agreed to have a coffee with one of my mentees to help him understand the world of HR analytics that my mentee is very interested in. On the day, as he was about to go for that coffee, we were still at the office at the time, I took out £10 from my wallet and I said, please take it for your coffee, which really didn't go down very well. He went for the coffee and came back, and I suggested that we talk about the situation because something clearly didn't go wrong there.
Okay.
So I explained my perspective. In my culture, when someone very kindly offers to do me a favor, I immediately want to reciprocate and I want to say thank you. And I also don't want the person doing me the favor to feel that I'm taking it for granted. Therefore, I felt in the moment the right thing to do was to offer to pay for the coffee, even though I wasn't going for the coffee with them.
Total sense.
Right?
Yes, for me it does.
It does to me, it does to you as well. But to the other person at the time, the situation was read in a very different way because the culture that he comes from, if you agree to do a favor, you don't expect anything in exchange. And it felt almost embarrassing to him to be receiving money when he, out of the kindness of his heart, agreed to do me a favor. But the great situation, the great thing about this situation was that we talked about it, we shared each other's perspective, and we ended up laughing about it because we concluded that we were both really coming from the same place. We both wanted to do
nice.
a good thing. Exactly. But we just approached it differently. So it's a really good story, I think, to tell.
It is. Yeah, it's a very good example of different cultural backgrounds and how they can clash sometimes. But I'm happy that everything ended well. So Let me ask you, if you could give young people, the people that are listening to us here now, some tools in order for them to hear what you're telling me and actually apply this on their day-to-day basis, what would you tell them? How would you tell them to develop themselves and, yeah, to develop themselves?
Sure. Well, first thing I would want to say is you're learning on your own terms and conditions, and it's up to you what and how much you want to learn. So that curiosity aspect as you go through your professional journey is one of the most important in your career, for sure. And that curiosity is really going to drive you to some really, really fantastic places. In terms of the tools that I personally found very, very helpful, being a very impatient person by nature, being a high performer, a driver, someone who by nature wants to do and move on, and kind of drive at 100 miles an hour. Two very important tools came to help me stop myself from doing that: journaling and reflecting. So let me break it down for you. Why journaling? If you have a brainstorm of thoughts and ideas all the time, as I tend to have, you can feel quite overwhelmed at the end of the day because it feels very difficult to switch off your head. And I would wake up in the middle of the night with a thought that I just couldn't get rid of, and it would linger and linger and linger, and I couldn't sleep very well because of that. So through some great people that I've met in my life, I've been directed to journaling. Piece of paper and a pen by your bedside, for example, and if something wakes you up in the middle of the night, write it down. It will stop occupying your head, you'll be able to sleep, and next morning you'll wake up feeling refreshed, ready to go, and that idea is jotted down and you can go back to it with a fresh pair of eyes and continue developing that thought or idea. The second tool that I really value in my personal and professional life is reflection. To stop and reflect for 1-2 minutes. It doesn't have to be any longer than that. What's just happened in a particular situation? Why did that situation develop to what it was? What role did I play in that situation? Could I have done something differently? Could I have acted differently? Could I have responded as opposed to reacted, for example? So journaling to allow yourself a breather and to go back to your thoughts when you are in the right frame of mind, rather than in the middle of the night when you're supposed to sleep and regenerate for the next day. And reflection, to give yourself the chance to celebrate your successes, appreciate what role you play and what you bring to the table, and learn from your mistakes.
I see. I'm not sure if everybody knows, and I am a bit confused about that too. Can you explain the difference between reaction and responding to something?
Yeah, sure. When you react, you're driven by emotion in the moment, and you're not always yourself. So you don't show up as yourself when you react. You can show up as a very different person in that particular moment, right? And that can not only scare someone in the moment, but it can also mean that, you know, gradually they start losing trust in you, for example, because they don't always really know what they're going to get or what's going to ignite you in the wrong way, right? Now, it's not to say that emotions are bad. We are human and we should celebrate our emotions, and we should be happy and proud about the fact that we've got such a spectrum of emotion to work with. It's just the most beautiful thing, in my opinion. But when you react in the moment, you're not allowing yourself the chance to be yourself. You're not yourself in that moment. Responding means that you take a breath, you count to 5, but you stop in the moment, and then you provide your response, which will be more integral to who you are and who you want to show up as with your stakeholders, with your teammates. But it's also true outside of the work environment, at home as well, with your family, with your friends, and so on. So reactivity is driven by emotion in the moment and takes away from the true core of who we are, really. We're just not ourselves in that moment. And responding means that you take a step back from the situation. If you can, for a few minutes, do it. But if you need to be quite quick on your feet, pause. Create a bit of a space between you, the speaker, and the listener. Pause for 5 seconds and then say what you've got to say.
Yes, I think it's a great tool, and for people that are anxious, like myself, it's something that truly helps us put things into perspective, even if it's very quickly. So thank you very much. And well, I think that's the end of our interview. Thank you very much for being here with us today. Thank you for such an inspiring, not only one story, but a couple of stories and experiences shared. And well, thank you truly very much.
Thank you so much, Anna, and thank you everyone for listening.